Hello. Hey. Sorry, I'm running a little late today, but welcome to RX Info on the Go. I am Dr. Ravin Milton, PharmD, and I am here to talk to you about all things concerning pharmacy, the information that you never knew you needed. So, give me a second. I'm going to do like I normally do. I'm going to share it to my main page so we can try to get some people on here. Give me a sec. I hope everybody's having an amazing day. It is 12:05. It is so beautiful outside. It looks like spring has finally hit Texas. I think is awesome that spring has finally hit Texas. Let's see. But it's Texas, so you never know exactly how long we're going to have spring for. It could be back to winter in 2 weeks. That's Texas. Texas weather for you. If you live here, you know what I'm talking about. So, all right. Let's see. Gonna copy link. It's an awesome day. Awesome day. Okay. Okay. It's 12:06. I'm gonna tag a couple of people and hopefully we can get some people on so we can interact. Let's see. Nope, that's not working. There we go. Well, I'll do followers. All right, so here we go. So today's topic is pharmacy laws and regulations. You may be wondering, like, why do I need to know about this? Well, there are some things that you would need to know concerning your prescriptions and getting them filled that sometimes we don't think about when you're going to get your prescription filled or when you're calling in for your refills, that kind of thing. So one thing that I need to start off with saying is that every state has their own set of laws when it comes to pharmacy. We each, whenever we get licensed for to be a pharmacist in a particular state, we have to take their law exams called the MPJE, and that determines the amount, the type of laws that are, well, I'm not going to say that determines, but that's our set of laws for each particular state. So I can't really speak on all of the laws for all of the states, but what I can speak on are the laws for Texas, as that's where I practiced the majority of the time that I've been licensed. I can also speak on some of the laws, not many, but some of the laws for Louisiana. That's where I was originally licensed. However, I have been practicing in Texas for the majority of the time that I've been a pharmacist. So I'm going to go through a few things. I hope that you would have any questions, that you would drop them in the comments, and that, you know, I can answer those questions as we go along. That would be awesome. But I'll get started with just a few things here and there. So first things first is that a prescription that is a legend prescription, that's just your everyday, like your blood pressure medicine, your stomach medicine, your diabetes medicines, all those medications are good for 1 year. That means the date that the prescription was written until a year later, that prescription is good to be refilled unless the doctor does not give any refills. So if your doctor gives you refills, say he gives you 12 refills, technically it would be 11. If he gave you that many refills, hold on a second. Don't know why it's doing that. Anyway, so if he gave you that many refills, say 12 refills, right? And the first prescription that you get filled, that counts as one fill. Say you're getting it filled every month after that. If you get to your 11th refill, technically that is 12 fills, and that means that that very last refill may possibly expire, just depending on how you're taking the medication. If it's something that you're taking every single day, you get a 30-day supply with 12 refills. It's possible that that 12th refill will actually expire because a prescription is only good for 1 year, and the original prescription counts as a fill. So a lot of people get that mixed up. A lot of people don't understand that prescriptions can actually expire. When your doctor gives you a prescription, it doesn't mean that you can continue to take the prescription or continue to get it refilled. There are laws that we have to follow that prohibit us from filling a prescription after the expiration date of it. Just keep that in mind. So when you're looking at your bottles, please make sure that you look at your bottles and see what those expiration dates are on them so that you don't lose your refills. That's one thing. Second thing, if you are getting a prescription that is a controlled substance, those are going to be your sleep aids such as Zolpidem, or those for anxiety, Alprazolam, your Xanax, Klonopin, those types of medications, even some seizure medications that are controlled substances. Those are only good for 6 months. And we can only fill 5 refills. So if your doctor gives you 6 refills on this medication, it's going to be null and void. We can only fill 5 refills. That means the original prescription plus an additional 5 fills. That's all that we can fill by law. That's it. It's kind of crazy, but those controlled substances, they are controlled. So therefore, they are monitored more frequently, which means you have less refills on it. It may be something that you've been taking for something like Fycompa. It's a seizure medication. It may be something that you actually do have to take every single day of your life because it prevents seizures. But it is something that you still have to be monitored for. So just keep that in mind. With a prescription as a controlled substance, we can not fill it any more than 5 refills. And that original fill counts as a fill. Now, in the state of Texas, if you have a nurse practitioner or a PA that's writing your prescription for your controlled substance, say a sleep aid like Zolpidem, they can only write for a 90-day supply. So if you're always wondering, well, why do they want to see me back every 3 months? They're not allowed to write for any more than 90 days. They can give you a 1 month with 2 refills. That's it. Those are nurse practitioners and PAs. Those prescriptions have to also be, in the state of Texas, the original prescriber or the coordinating doctor, I guess it would say the supervising doctor. That's the terminology. The supervising doctor is the one who has to actually be on the prescription pad in addition to the nurse practitioner or the PA's name. And that actually is, in the state of Texas, valid for are correct for all prescriptions. So if you have a nurse practitioner or a PA that's seeing you, they have to indicate who their supervising physician is on the prescription pad. That's just a requirement. And You may, sometimes have your prescription delayed because that information is not on there. A lot of times we know who the attending physician is, but sometimes we don't. So that's just something to keep in mind. For prescriptions that are narcotics, those are your C2 prescriptions. Those prescriptions cannot be refilled. When I say not, that means not. That means every single time that you get this prescription filled for hydrocodone, Adderall, hydromorphone, your pain medications, your ADHD medications, Vyvanse, those medications are considered narcotics C2, and they cannot be refilled. They also have a time limit. So those medications have to be filled within 30 days of the date that it was written, and it will expire, beyond those 30 days. It means if you bring your prescription in and there are some doctors that are still writing paper prescriptions for C2s. They have waivers that they can do that. If you bring in that paper prescription and it's past that 30-day expiration date, we can't fill it. Another thing about those is that if your doctor accidentally writes the wrong date on it, I've had that happen several times, especially at the beginning of the year. That's something that most people don't think about, that the doctors can actually make a mistake on a date. It happens all the time, though. Whenever the first of the year comes along and we're changing from 23 to 24, we still have doctors that are, will still write 23, and they don't mean to do it. We know that it's a mistake, but on a C2, that is the one of the things that we cannot change, which is the date. We cannot change the date that the prescription was written. So if the doctor makes a mistake on a paper prescription and writes in the wrong year, you will have to take that prescription back to get another one, because it's going to be considered null and void and expired. It's a pain in the butt. It is, but it's information you need to know. In addition to that, when it comes to the C2 prescriptions, doctors can send in multiple prescriptions for C2. So say you're taking pain medication and you are, consistent on this particular therapy, you're getting hydrocodone every single month. The doctor can write a series of 3 prescriptions for consecutive dates. So it'll be January 1st, February 1st, March 1st. He can only write for 90 days. He can't write outside of those 90 days, though. So that's just something to keep in mind. We see it happen all the time, that sometimes doctors will put an earliest fill date on a prescription for a narcotic, rather. They'll put an earliest fill date on that prescription, and that earliest fill date will be different from when you actually run out of your medication. If you run out of your medication and that earliest fill date is, beyond that date, we can't fill the prescription. We can't, just because we have the prescription in hand, we cannot go ahead and fill it. It's important to know that. It's not that we're holding your prescription back from you. Law prevents us from filling the prescription that has an earliest fill date. So if today is March 6th and you ran out of your medication, but the doctor wrote on the earliest fill date March 8th, we cannot fill it until March 8th, whether or not the doctor made a mistake. If indeed there was a mistake that was made, the doctor can send in a replacement prescription and cancel the other one. I want to give you this information because a lot of times people feel like, sometimes pharmacists hold their prescriptions back, or we don't want to, fill the prescriptions. Sometimes it's not about that. Sometimes it's law prohibits us from doing so. There's something to keep in mind, is that we have a license to uphold. Just like your doctors have a license to uphold, so do we. and we have to abide by those laws and regulations that we, signed up for when we got our license. A lot of times, some of these things will happen and they're out of our control. Not that we're trying to keep your medication from you, not that we're trying to hold it back from you, but we still have to follow the law. So please be patient and understand that, we too have laws to follow that keep us from doing even sometimes the right thing. So that's just something to keep in mind. I'm trying to think of all the different things that, we could run into law-wise, and there are so many of them. But if I had to show you the actual book for the Texas laws, I think it's about that thick of all the different laws that we have to keep in mind when we're filling prescriptions. And it covers everything from hospital rules and regulations to your community pharmacy rules and regulations to hospice to long-term care. There's so many things out there, so many rules out there that we have to follow, and it varies based on where you're working. So just keep that in mind. One thing I would like to bring to your attention is the brand versus generic, the rules that are associated with that. I did touch on it a little bit last week, but just to, reiterate that if your doctor writes for a prescription and they write for it brand medically necessary, and it does have a generic, but that brand is, say, too expensive, we can't fill the generic until we get approval from your physician to fill the generic. The doctor does not have to rewrite the prescription. We can, however, get an approval and annotate the prescription stating that the doctor is okay with you getting the generic. But if he does originally state on there to dispense as written or brand medically necessary, then we're going to dispense the brand no matter what the cost is, because that's what we have to do. That's the law. There's another thing concerning your medications, what's called AB rated. The best way to explain this is that there are brands and generics that are considered optimal and completely therapeutically equivalent. That would be an AB rated. There's something called ZB rated, which means that it is the same ingredients, but not quite therapeutically equivalent. Now, there are some medications that have been grandfathered in over time that literally the brand hardly doesn't exist, and the generic does exist, but the brand versus generic is not an AB rated, but the non-AB rated is the only thing that's available. I know that was a whole mouthful. In this instance, we would still have to call the doctor to say, hey, this is a non-AB rated generic. Are you okay with us dispensing this? Once we get that approval from the doctor, then we can go ahead and fill the prescription. I know it's a lot. You're probably thinking, this is crazy. Why do we even have to go through all of this stuff? But those measures have been put in place to protect you. And especially to protect you, to make sure that you're getting the right thing. So just keep that in mind. A lot of times, we're not trying to hold your prescription up. We just have to make sure that we're doing the best thing for you. And we are filling your prescriptions accurately. And there's this rule that we used to say, and I don't know if I'm going to even say it right, but we have to make sure that we fill the prescription for the right person, the right medication, at the right time, at the right dose. And there's one more right there. I know there's like 5 of them, but those are the things that we're looking at when we're filling prescriptions. And those laws kind of help protect you and protect us to help us do that. So that's one other thing when we're talking about rules and regulations and laws. Let's see. Compounded medications. This is a big one. So there are all these different marketed medications, right? And then sometimes a doctor will say, well, we don't want the marketed product. We want the compounded product. If the medication is available as a marketed item, a commercialized item, I'm going to throw the biggest one that's out there right now, Ozempic. When Ozempic first hit the scene and things started going on back order, there were companies that were compounding the Ozempic injections, and I kept wondering, like, well, how are they doing that? Because semaglutide, which is the ingredient of Ozempic, is actually marketed as Ozempic, and that's against the law. We're not allowed to do that, right? What was happening, though, is that they were combining Ozempic or semaglutide with another ingredient, which allowed them to compound the medication. So they would include semaglutide along with like B6 or B12 to help with the nausea. That will go along with that medication. Adding that one ingredient no longer makes it Ozempic. And that's how they got around it. It's still done to this day. This is safe. It's good theory. It helps to combat the nausea that goes along with it, with taking that medication. So, it's not a bad thing. It's just that it kind of took us all by, we're all questioning, like, how are they compounding this stuff so quickly? Especially when Ozempic doesn't have a generic yet. So the availability of the ingredient itself, it was going on back order, and someone decided, well, we need to make sure we get this to our patients. We can compound it, but let's just add an extra ingredient in it. That way we have no issues with the company Ozempic. Another thing is that if something does go on back order, I remember, it was years ago, that Tamiflu suspension was on back order, and we ended up having to compound it from the capsules because the suspension wasn't available. But we couldn't just go ahead and do it on our own. We had to get approval to do so. So whenever there's a huge back order that's going on, we have to get permission to compound those things. And there are medications going on and off back order all the time right now. Is actually the craziest thing that I've ever seen in my career, the amount of medications that are on back order. It blows my mind, because I feel like I make that phone call to our patients more than anything lately. Like, hey, this is on back order, I can't get it. Hey, this is on back order, I can't get it. And the question is, well, what do I do? We can call your doctor and see if they can switch you to something different. But we can't just switch on our own. Now, there are some things that we can switch on our own. So say the doctor writes a prescription for a suspension, and mom is like, I don't want a suspension for my kid. They can swallow capsules just fine. We can make that substitution on our own. We are allowed to make substitutions as long as it is the same active ingredient and therapeutically equivalent. We can go ahead and give them the capsules of amoxicillin instead of giving them the suspension of amoxicillin. We can also make substitutions as far as if, say, one strength is on back order and we can't get it, but another strength of the same medication is available. That has happened with amoxicillin before as well. So if your doctor writes for a prescription for 400 milligrams per 5 milliliters of amoxicillin, we can't get it. I can do the math. Math is what we do. I can do the math. and give you the amoxicillin 250 milligrams per 5 mLs because I have that one in stock, and that way you have your treatment in a timely manner. As long as you're okay with it, we're okay with it. We want to make sure that you are healthy and we get you the treatment in the best time that we can possibly get it to you. And if that means having to do a little math and, go for a different strength, we're going to do that. Let's see what else. This is a big one. A lot of times people do not think about the fact of a prescription being what it is. It's a dangerous substance that can be altered once it leaves the pharmacy. Now, is it likely that somebody's gonna go, take a capsule and break it up and put something else in it and then bring it back to us? No, but the law prevents us from taking a prescription back once it's been dispensed, unless it is a error on our part. That's the only time we can take a prescription back. So say your doctor writes a prescription for, say, lisinopril 20 milligrams. And he was supposed to write for losartan because he was supposed to be changing your prescription. But the prescription came into us. We filled the prescription as is. We filled it, there were no discrepancies anywhere else. We filled exactly what the doctor wrote for. You picked up the prescription. And then at the end of it all, the doctor calls back and says, oh no, I was supposed to prescribe losartan, not lisinopril. Unfortunately, we can't take that prescription back because it was not our error. The doctor can, however, reimburse you if you request that they do so. Now, I don't know too many doctors who actually do that, but I would think the right thing would be to reimburse the patient if I know I made a mistake on my part. Let's see. Doxycycline. Hey, John. Long time no see. Okay, what about doxycycline? I know a few pharmacists get doctor's approval before switching from tabs to caps or vice versa. So doxycycline is a little bit different. There's doxycycline hyclate, and then there's doxycycline monohydrate. The doxycycline hyclates can be switched back and forth from caps to tabs. They are therapeutically equivalent. But what you cannot do is switch from doxycycline hyclate to doxycycline monohydrate. They are two different chemicals. And I think that's, people get mixed up a little bit. But when you're doing a tab to a cap, generally you can switch back and forth except for some extended release products. One of those would be venlafaxine, the extended release product. You cannot switch from a tablet to a capsule because they are not therapeutically equivalent. Also, they are released differently. So that's, they're the two brand name products, sorry, I had to get that the way that I wanted to say that right. The two brand name products are not the same. Therefore, you can't interchange the venlafaxines. The same thing is going to be with diltiazem. You have to be really careful with diltiazem because there are diltiazem ER 12-hour release, and then there's diltiazem ER 24-hour release. And people get really, switched up with diltiazem because there are so many different products that are available. The best thing to do on those, for at least our side, we go in and check and make sure that that AB rating is there, to make sure that we're dispensing the correct generic even when we're interchanging things. So that's another thing. This can go like on and on for the amount of things that we're allowed to do versus the things that we are not allowed to do. And please know that we are never trying to inconvenience the patient at all. Please know that we're never trying to hold back a prescription from you. At the end of the day, our goal is to get the medication to the patient in a timely fashion. That's one. Two, take into account that we are a business. It would kind of be counterproductive to not dispense a prescription. So, not to say that we would dispense the prescription just, all willy-nilly just to get the sale, but you have to take into account that we don't dispense prescriptions, or we don't hold back prescriptions just to hold them back. There's a reason why. So just as something to just clear up. There's always going to be a reason why. If we don't fill the prescription, there's a reason why we're not filling the prescription. But there are laws that we have to follow. Compounding. So I'll continue on that one. So every pharmacy does not have the capability to compound. There are some pharmacies that are compounding pharmacies specifically, and there are a ton of laws now concerning the compounding of medications. There are actually compounding pharmacies, specialty pharmacies that handle that type of thing. My particular store, we don't do compounding of, I'm not going to say of any kind. The main compounding that we do is magic mouthwash, which is pretty much the combining of 3 different liquids, or sometimes 4, depending on the ingredients. But when it comes to doing capsules and lozenges and suppositories of things that have special ingredients, we don't do those there anymore. We have a sister store that we send everything off to, and then they send it back to us for the patient to pick up. So if you go to your pharmacy and they're like, yeah, we can't compound that one, it may be just that they don't have the capability to compound it, or they might not be deemed a compounding pharmacy, because with the state, of Texas, we have to register as a compounding pharmacy as well. And we have to also tell them what types of compounds that we're doing. So that's something else to keep in mind. Now, each pharmacy in the state of Texas, they are visited, or they're licensed rather, like by the State Board of Pharmacy, the Texas Board of Pharmacy. And when they do inspections, they pop up on us just to make sure that everything is okay. If you have a pharmacy that is not registered with the state of Texas, they are an illegal pharmacy, period. In addition to that, every pharmacist that is working in the pharmacy should be registered with the state of Texas as well. Every technician should be registered with the state of Texas, whether that technician is certified or whether that technician is a tech in training. They still have to be registered with the state of Texas. In addition to that, every pharmacy must list the people that are working in their pharmacy. So when someone comes to our pharmacy, they start working with us, we have to go on the Board of Pharmacy and indicate who's working and what position they're working and whether or not they're full-time or not. We have checks and balances just like everything else. And it goes down to, every pharmacy, every location. It can't just be, Walgreens and then a whole bunch of, but it's every location, their address, their phone number. It tells you what type of pharmacy. I mean, you can look on the Board of Pharmacy website and it'll tell you all that information. Let's see. I said that to say these online pharmacies that you might find that are in other countries, that are in other states. I don't know what other states do, but when you have an online pharmacy, please be very careful about those. Some of those pharmacies are not legitimate, and you are not getting medication that is actually the medication that they say that they are. There have been instances where people manufacture lookalikes and try to sell them as prescriptions, and patients are harmed in the end because they got them from off the black market or something of that sort. We know that type of thing exists. It happens. Let's not just act like it doesn't happen, because it does. So please be careful. I know that medications are expensive for some of them. There are some that are even, more expensive than we would care for them to be. But if you have a really good relationship with your pharmacist, I can't speak for them, but I can speak for me. I know that if I see my patient with a medication that is too expensive for them to get, I do my best to make sure that they have something to treat them. I don't just turn them away and say, hey, this is what the copay is. Sucks to be you. That's not what I do as a pharmacist. If there's any way that I can call a doctor, make a suggestion for something that would be cheaper, if I can call a coupon company or anything, I try my best to be able to meet the needs of my patients. I don't suggest going online to these random companies. I don't. There are some legitimate online companies, but just please do your research before, putting your prescription in with them, or, trying to get it from another source or something of that. Just please be careful. So let me talk about pet meds. There are medications like amoxicillin, and if you remember the big crave, not big crave, but the big old thing that happened with COVID about ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, some of these things were available at your local feed store. Like the ivermectin is typically used for worms. People were getting ivermectin at the feed store and trying to take it that way. I don't suggest that either. The medications that are available for pets, they are dosed in totally different dosages than what they are for humans. Majority of the time, those antibiotics and so forth that they have at the feed store for animals are for larger animals. They're like for cows and horses, and the amount of medication that they would take versus what a human would take is substantially larger. So I just want to make you aware that if anyone ever suggests to you you can just get this at the feed store, or you can get it like, the fish antibiotics or those things, please don't do that. Talk to your pharmacist if you're having issues with the price. Talk to your pharmacist if you're having issues with being able to get your medicine. I'm sure that they will, try to work it out with you some kind of way, even if it means calling your doctor and getting it changed to something different. Because you trying to take something on your own can be harmful, and we want you to be healthy and whole and live. That's the main goal, to be healthy and whole and to get you to live. So please don't do that. Don't listen to those people who are trying to get you to go to feed stores or to pet or veterinary, type places to get a medication for a human. It's totally different. I'll just put that out there. So it is 12:43. I've been on here for a little bit. If you have any other questions, drop them in the comments so I can see them. I kind of went over a little bit here and there. The laws and regulations are so vast. It's so much information that I probably could not include it all in just this one little short live. But I'm sure that I'll be back with more information, especially if you guys drop some, questions in the comments, or if someone sends me a topic, I'll be more than happy to go over that as well. Do me a favor, follow my YouTube page. It's all of my information, whether it's my Instagram page or my YouTube channel or my Facebook page. They are all listed under Dr. Ravin PharmD. My website is www.drravinpharmd.com. I have some goodies on there that you could purchase if you want to help out. And, they're all kind of faith-based merchandise. So just keep that in mind. I love me some Jesus, and I kind of spread the word through the merchandise that I share on my website as well. I will be doing something new pretty soon here, so I'm not going to announce it just yet, but I will let you guys know to keep tuning in, because there's going to be something coming up that's going to be helpful for you, especially for those who are on multiple medications and, have several different disease states, things like that. If you have anybody in your family like that, or if that's you, just please keep watching, stay tuned. I have something coming up that's going to help y'all out. And if you know anybody that needs some of this information, please, please, please share. That's the whole point of this, is to get information out to those who need it. And sometimes it's information you never knew that you needed. So please take the time to like, tag, share, get the word out, share old videos. They stay on my page on my Facebook page for 30 days. And also on the YouTube channel, it's just there. You can go watch whenever you're ready. So I hope you guys have an amazing day. I don't see any questions coming out. It's so nice to see y'all on here. I appreciate you tuning in, and I will see you guys next week, same time, same place, Wednesday at noon for more of RX Info on the go. I love y'all. Have an amazing day. It's so pretty outside. Go enjoy it if you can, even if it's just like to soak up 20 minutes of sun, maybe 15, 10, whatever you can get to. Go enjoy it. It's beautiful. Have a great day.